They're going to try and get you healthy there. Well, a few weeks ago, we spoke to Lily Arthur, who was forced to give up her baby in this country's adoption boom era of the 50s right through to the 70s. Here's what Lily had to say.
After I signed the consent, they said that I could see him for 5 minutes at the nursery window. So when I saw him at the window, they had a card on his bassinet saying not to be shown. So that was the first and the only time that I saw my son for 30 years.
So many painful stories, and we received an overwhelming response from our viewers, from several relinquishing mothers as well as adoptees from this area. So this morning we're going to speak to 3 women in their 30s, 40s and 50s, all forcibly adopted during this period, and our psychologist Ian Wallace joins us as well. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Carrie-Anne.
But online, Kate from Victoria joins us. Kate, and I'm very, very glad that you could this morning, because you wrote the most sensitive and poignant email. And one of the lines that I found most powerful, you said, people expect us to have an attitude but also be grateful and damaged at the same time. Perhaps you can expand on what you meant.
Yeah, of course. I think the thing with being adopted is the expectation in society is that we'll be grateful to our adoptive family and they're the only ones that matter. And in reality, a lot of identity issues are raised by not being raised by your biological family. And I think as much as I love my adoptive family and I am grateful to them, it's not all about gratitude and what they could give to me, basically. I think it works both ways, and I did miss out on a lot by not being raised by my natural family.
Well, if you don't mind, we'd like to go through your circumstances. You're 36 years of age now. How and why did your mother relinquish you?
Well, my mother was fairly young. She was in her early 20s and had been raised in a fairly sheltered family. She fell for a married man and they had a very brief relationship, and she actually didn't know that he was married until she found out she was pregnant. She was living in a fairly small town and she moved away from there as soon as she found out she was pregnant. She hid the pregnancy from everyone in her life except for one of her friends, and continued to work until just a couple of days before I was born. Unfortunately, after I was born, of course, she was very depressed and was given antidepressants and was unable to work for quite some time after that. But went on with her life as best she could, gave me up, you know, assuming, as people did back then, that it was in the best interests of the child. And I was adopted when I was about 7 weeks old by a loving family, and grew up with 3 older brothers, and you know, had a generally very good life, but still had quite a lot of issues surrounding being adopted.
Describe your first reunion.
I'm sorry?
Could you describe the first reunion?
Oh, it was quite amazing. I was lucky in that my half-sister actually searched for me, and I know it's very difficult for a lot of adoptees to even get access to their information, let alone to find their families. So I was lucky in that way. But the very first time I saw my mother, the first thing I said was, "That's where my face is from," because growing up I had no one around me that I looked like or could even relate to personality-wise. I think it's something people take for granted, that they look like, you know, their parents, or at least like, you know, uncle or auntie so-and-so, or they have their personality traits. Mm-hmm. And that's something that really hit me when I first met my mother and my sister.
Kate, was that hard for you, that, like a lot of adoptees I took to say, they're a loving family, and I'm really grateful they cared for me, but I know I didn't quite fit. I had a different personality. They had different values. And did you find that better with your birth mum, that she was much more like you? Similar?
Oh, exactly like me. We actually joke that I was immaculate conception because we are so much alike. It's quite astounding. And it is. It's exactly that you know, as much as your adoptive family love you and provide for you, there are certain things missing that you really do notice.
Do you feel more attached to your birth mum now because of that?
I do. I know that I'm actually very lucky in my circumstance that we connected straight away and are very similar. I know that a lot of adoptees and mothers have trouble when they're first reunited because of the damage that's been done, the psychological sort of damage.
So when you talk about that psychological damage, could you just narrow that down for us, Kate?
Sure. I think for adoptees, the biggest thing is the abandonment issues that we go through. It makes it difficult in relationships. We either break up relationships that are, you know, quite good because we want to leave before we can be left, or we cling to relationships that we know aren't right for us because we don't want to be left. I think there's the feeling disconnected, not feeling like part of your family per se, and you try desperately to fit in to your adoptive family, and that can often lead to identity issues because you're trying to be somebody that you're not. And I think the abandonment and the feeling unwanted is a big thing that we all carry through our lives.
Of course. Well, Kate, I just can't tell you how grateful we are for you giving us your perspective this morning and also writing that email. Very touching, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Carrie-Anne.
Kate joins us from Victoria. So as we wrap it up, she talks about those abandonment issues from your experience. How do people, and I assume that's very normal across the board in this situation, how should and can people deal with that?
It's really those things about like not feeling attached, always wondering, why did someone give me up? Feeling abandoned, which means they tend to not get over things.
Does it make it easier once you've got the answer?
Not always. Some people it is, some people they can fit together, but even sometimes the answers aren't great. It's also tough times, like anniversaries are really tough, birthdays are really tough. Lots of adopted kids say, gee, rather than the birthday being all good, that was actually a really tough time for me. And adolescence is a really hard period when you just start to find your identity. That's when they get really lost all the time.
Okay, we're going to continue this discussion this morning. We'll hear from a couple of more women in their 40s and 50s affected by being adopted. Stay with us on Mornings.
The hilarious hit show everyone is talking about.
Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to have to see that one more time in slow motion, please.